Hello and welcome to the Business Octopus live stream. Welcome back. We are going to be talking about building out your ultimate marketing kit. Welcome, Amanda. How are you going?
I'm very well, and how are you, Avon?
Hopefully better soon, as in tired, but trying to put things in place so that I don't answer as many questions. I don't have as many people coming back and say, how do I do this? Or I don't understand that. Or maybe you sent the information and they didn't really absorb it properly. And so that kind of like ties into what we're talking about today is creating like assets that help communicate a bigger message. And so I think in terms of, today we're talking about it in the marketing kit, but you really can use a lot of this stuff in other areas. Like we're literally just before we hit live, we're talking about using it for onboarding a new customer, or we're going to branch out into a new market. And so we want to have a slide deck basically to give the people that we're going to be talking to so that answers a whole bunch of questions. And broadly, marketing is about answering questions and maybe identifying new questions that the customer didn't know they had, answering the problem before they ask, and just basically providing information in a fun, quickly absorbable way. Doesn't matter how many times you tell a customer something, doesn't matter how many times you explain something, you have to over communicate. The more you do, the more easy you make it to find the information, the less you have to answer questions, deal with fix-ups. Unless you're picking up the phone, yes, it's good to talk to your people, but that takes time. And if you've got 1,000 customers, you can't be on the phone to everybody. So that's the long and short of it. How are you?
Yeah, beautiful segue there, Avon. You nailed that. Yes, and so as business owners, as marketing teams, as entrepreneurs, we need to have these assets in place so that we can focus on the important stuff. So I always like to call these the silent salesperson. So it's answering, or it could be the silent customer service manager or customer success manager as well, because we can create these things, like Avon says, answers questions, overcomes objections. Think about all of the questions that you're bombarded with on a daily basis, like with external stakeholders. So your customers, your clients, potential clients, and create assets to make your life easier and to solve those challenges.
Well, it's like the last time you bought a piece of furniture from IKEA, and
Mm-hmm.
the instructions are on the inside in a very simple cartoon form. It doesn't matter what country you're in, what language you speak. You can generally get the idea of how to do the thing from the marketing. So
Absolutely.
whilst at that point you've already made the sale, it is a form of marketing, because then you go, wow, this was really easy. And the next time you go and buy a bit of furniture, you'll probably choose the one that was easy, as opposed to some monstrosity of a put together kit that just doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, no one's got time for those evil flat packs. Absolutely not.
So in terms of giving confidence for sales related conversations, I think in order to be able to delegate sales, you really need to be building those sales materials before your first sales hire, if you can. Even if it's basic, there's no point having a salesperson come in and then you're paying them for 6 months before they get their first client over the line. And if they've got materials, then they can easily learn your product, how you sell. They can easily communicate those selling points to the customer without it getting lost in translation. And it's also something that when that salesperson leaves that conversation, there's still something sitting on the desk of the client or in the inbox or something that they can read to then really just understand what it is, the value proposition that you have, what's being sold, and why they should buy it.
Absolutely. And just as an add-on to that, it makes you look infinitely more professional when you have these beautiful documents that outline who you are, how you help people, that the client can keep their hands on and refer back to.
So I guess there's we did talk about 5 things that you can have. So if you don't know where to start, there's some very, very simple ones. So what's one that you would suggest?
A one pager or a capability statement. So maybe you've just started working with someone who could be a potential referral partner, could be a first interaction with a client who's not quite ready to engage you, but they want something tangible that they can take away so they understand in essence who you are and what you do. So having that in a document, either 1 or 2 pages, is a really powerful place to start.
I think sometimes people overcomplicate their service mix, and if you kind of like zoom out and take a high level, like if I think about us, we've got the CRM services, we've got the online community, we do the virtual staffing, we do some IT stuff, and so we don't need to go to the nth degree and explain everything. And sometimes people give too much information. What's the last time you've been to like a networking event and someone gets up and they introduce themselves? They've only got 30 seconds. But then they go on this 5-minute tirade and like people are trying to stop them to say, hey, let the next person go. And then they're like, and this, and this, and this. Don't do that. One pager.
Please don't do
that. If you can't do it in one page, and just put the dot points, just keep it skimmable and readable. If it's one page, but it's like contract text in fine print, no one's going to read it. So just simple, easy to use, easy to consume, easy to read. And then I think, one of the things that helps sell people, particularly if you run a service or even if you have a product, is social proof. And so that's where case studies or maybe a reviews sheet or some kind of testimonial would be something that would be another really great piece. Now, I like to think modularly. So maybe you've got your case studies, but maybe you could say, for example, in the conversation with customer A, they're getting service 1, 2, and 3. Customer B, they're only getting service 2 and 3. So not all the same information is relevant. But if you say, all right, well, I've got this like kit of flyers, like a little folder or something, I can give this person the 3 one-pagers on each of those product lines, and I give that one the one-pager on those 2 product lines, and then maybe I've got 5 or 6 case studies, and I'll pick the one that's most relevant to them.
Exactly. We do the same thing. We structure it around industries because, the client wants to see themselves in your previous work, right? So we categorize it by industry and type of project, and we're able to attach that to proposals.
Now, offer explainers. Do you want to talk us through that? Do you want to explain an offer explainer?
Sure. So we have a couple of different products, and like we were saying before, keep your one pager nice, clean, and simple, and then you can have other documents that go into detail around a particular offer or a particular product or service that might be of interest to a particular potential client. So you would dig into what that product entails, what it might look like as it rolls out into their organization, how you've helped previous clients. You might take some testimonials or snippets of case studies and put that in there so that they have a really solid understanding of what problem that offer or that service will solve.
So I think, when people think offers, they tend to gamify and try to overcomplicate or overthink about what an offer should be. They think they've got to come up with, like buy now and get a free set of steak knives, or, get 3 of these and then get 2. Like you're probably going to package it differently depending on the client need. Like you might have 3 or 4 service lines, but then you might have 3 or 4 different tiers of customer. Maybe there's the solo operator, someone who's just got a few staff, and then maybe the enterprise client. And so you need to look at it in different ways. So you don't need to build everything, but maybe you could have a document that says, we have something for where you're at in the cycle, or we only work with clients in this range. If that's you, we should talk. And because, like maybe you can go in and explain that a bit more and to say, we know that if you're too small, you don't really get the benefit of it. If you're too big, we can't really handle that. And so by being upfront about that, you actually have better credibility than trying to serve every single market. So I guess the next one is, seeing is believing. A demo deck. Do you want to talk us through that one?
Yeah. So in our world, we've actually created a video that is our demo deck. So big thing for us is protecting our clients' IP. So we develop courses and training programs. So we've created a video where we've blurred some aspects out of the screen, and we show them the learning environment in the video and talk them through and say, hey, this was a client in this particular industry and we built this particular learning solution out for them, so they can actually see our work in action without compromising anyone's IP. So we do it a little bit differently. You might structure it as a PDF, and no excuses for not creating amazing looking documents, because everyone has access to Canva for like $18 a month, no excuses to make it look fabulous with all the features. So it depends on what product you're offering. How do you roll with that one, Avon?
So like we have video, we do a lot of YouTube videos, and we use that as our way to explain what we do. And, you know, like I've sent playlist of videos to a particular client in advance. And then when I walked in, everybody knew my name. Everybody was familiar with what we do and how we do it. It wasn't a sales conversation with the other person across the desk, arms folded, saying, hey, what are you going to do for us? It was it turned out to be a 6-figure deal, and it was probably one of the easier things I've ever gotten to sign off. It wasn't like going through some like crazy procurement cycle. I've gone through far more complicated selling processes or purchasing procurement processes for a $3,000 sale than what I had done for a 6-figure sale. And it was because we had the brand asset that built that trust, to build that relationship, to answer questions, to kill off buyer objection before I even walked into the room.
Amazing. And just to really drill down on this for the viewers at home, it's got built-in social proof because it's out on YouTube. It's not something we create. Well, we did create it internally, but then we put it out on YouTube. And how many subscribers are you at now, Avon? 230.
Might have to refresh. I mean, 235,000, I think.
I was close.
Maybe 236. I don't know. I stopped looking after a while. 235,247, and it goes up on a regular basis.
So people see that when you send it across, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about."
Yeah. So we've got one more, but before we go into that one, I was going to say, if you're watching and you want to add another one, or you've got an idea, or if you've got another comment, please just let us know in the comments, because we can interact with you live. So if you've got one other that you want to add, just write it in, and it does take a little bit to come through. But once we see that, we can pop it up on screen and we can answer you direct. So the last one I would say is the pricing overview / proposal. Now, we did say offer explainer. We also did say demo deck. Now, the overview / proposal, how is that different?
This is a good question. So
I would say it is and it isn't, and it's still important to have the different ones. Now, in my mind, the offer explainer really is just a high level. It doesn't always talk price, but it does say,
okay,
this might be for you if you meet these sort of conditions, and it would solve this problem.
Got it. Cool.
The demo deck is see it, touch it, feel it. You know, like going to a car dealership. You know, come and sit in the car, just feel the steering wheel, feel the leather, make sure it's comfortable, adjust the seat. Let's go for a test drive, right? That's that component. And you kind of do that, like particularly with if you sell a software, if you sell, maybe sometimes you can't always do a demo environment. Maybe it's a few screenshots. Maybe it's it's not something that's a full software. It might just be an integration, and sometimes there's like screenshots to that. Or if you have a service, maybe you could say that'd be like a video of you performing the service, like a lawn mowing. You could watch you do those edging and mowing and hedging kind of videos. And then the pricing overview proposal is probably the final boss of these pre-marketing materials, because ultimately you have demonstrated your value before you get to the point of showing them the price. If you're selling on price, like there's one, it was a lawn mowing client or a lawn mowing company, basically would always go above and beyond on every single job, never put price. And it was so much more expensive, but got so much word of mouth referral like to the point where he'd go and do the mowing and then have a dog treat for the dog and leave it with a little note and a card on the front door and say, hey, everything is done. By the way, we also did this. You didn't ask us to, but we did it anyway. And here's a little treat for your doggy. And
Amazing.
that like didn't have the price on it, but at least was able to demonstrate the value. Now that's a different element of marketing. That's referral. But I think the concept is a good one. So if you can demonstrate all of the value through all those other items, the case study, the one pager, the offer explainer, the demo deck, and then finally you get to the point of a price table, which might say, here's the gold, silver, bronze packages.
Very cool. Very cool.
But at least you had time to get to that point without having to just go, here's our dollars, buy or don't
100%.
buy.
Exactly. Yeah. Show the value first, team. That's where the magic is.
So keeping it organized. How do you, I think we kind of said it already, but just to really reiterate, I think it's really good to have it in a modular sort of a fashion. Maybe it's a few flyers. You might have seen, like, you go to like a trade show, or I don't know, real estate agents often have them. They've got this like card book, like it's a card sort of booklet, and it's got this like little edge on the outside, so you can put some A4 pieces of paper and they sit in there, and then they pop their little business card. So you're not getting every single flyer, and they're not going to give you the library of 500 bits of paper. They're not going to give you a phone book sized piece of thing. But of the selection of 20, you might get 4 that are super relevant to you. And so that helps reduce, of all of your brand assets, reduce the amount of waste, irrelevant stuff. 70% of people choose one specific thing, or choose a brand that solves one specific problem. So when people are buying, they don't want to go to the everything guy. They want to go to the one that just does the thing that solves their thing. Or even if you do everything, have each of your product lines in a separate ad set, in a separate product stream, in a separate modular fashion, because then they're going to go, oh, I heard you do this. Yes, cool. You might get to the other things later, but at least they've come in for that one particular thing.
Absolutely. Right. Best way to attack it. And again, team, no excuses. If you have Canva, you can keep all of these things in a project. You can steal bits and pieces from one, add it to another. You can keep it all beautifully organized and have templates.
You can get them printed. So a lot of times like I've got printed materials, which, directly from Canva, and it just cuts that one extra step, because what you used to have to do is create it in, like, we either pay a graphic designer to do it, or put it into a Photoshop, if you figure that out, and then you take the file, then you put it into Vistaprint or something like that, and then they come back and go, your coloring is wrong, your sizing is wrong, the print bleed edge is wrong, and that was quite frustrating. Now you can go into Canva and you go, I want to print this, and then it'll go, you might just want to move that thing one little bit to the left, and you're inside the print range. That is a massive improvement. And so I'd save like hours and hours of frustration. And so then you just click print. I want 50 of them, or I want 500, or I want 5,000, and they'll rock up on your door in a few days.
Perfect. Easy. The dream.
All right. So what's next? How to make it better?
How to make it better? Tell me more.
Oh, personalize.
Yes. Oh, yes. Make it personalized. Yes. So when you're sending out proposals, case studies, personalize it for the person that's on the receiving end. So making sure that you're being intentional about what you're sending to whom.
But also, like, say, for example, if you are doing it via an email, is, like you had the 20 or so resources that you could pull from, you're only going to grab these 3 and then say, hey, Amanda, it was great chatting you about this issue, and here is the 3 that I think are most relevant to you. If you have any more questions, and maybe you say, in your particular case, even though this is the document, we normally do this, I would suggest we also do that. And then that helps to really personalize the experience and make it more relevant. So you can sort of say, well, in most cases, this is what we do, just so it gives you more credibility, because sometimes the customer doesn't know the other little facets of what is commonly done. And, like, people trust the system. The system has brand equity and value. And what I mean that in saying that is that the word system, or the word process, or the word, I'll think of another word about that. I can't think of a third one, but basically, that kind of creates confidence in the customer. That's something that scales. That says input A, B, and C always leads to output X. So by giving it a system and a structure, now you've increased the brand equity of that particular service. Whereas if it's like, I'm some guru, I walk in, I like feel what direction the wind's going, I sniff the air, I listen to something, I poke something, and then go, here's the issue. You don't want to be the horse whisperer. You want to be the let's say the patented horse training process.
Yes, that's been done 1,000 times before. So we've proven it.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt that it's going to serve you at the highest level, and you will get the results you expect.
Exactly. Yeah. Brand equity. All right. And then the last one being what you've already said a few times is make sure it looks the goods, the level of awesome that you deliver.
Yes. Yeah, it absolutely. Anything marketing materials wise that goes out and is representing your brand has to be to the standard that you're delivering in your product or service. So we're not going to advertise, a Michelin star restaurant with one of those A4 pizza store flyers that are yellow with black text that look like it's been photocopied 38 times.
Or a blank slip of paper and a texter going,
No.
I think there was one, it actually made the media. It was an Apple store, and they just had a handwritten note and said closed for Mother's Day or something like that. So people took photos and went, this is like
someone got fired. Someone got fired for that, no doubt. That's not on.
So yes, look the goods. Look like you know what you're doing, and if you don't know what you're doing, just look like you know what you're doing. So
exactly.
Anyway. Well, I think we've covered a fair amount, and hopefully someone somewhere has gotten some value from that. If you're watching and you like what you hear, we definitely love a subscribe. Please join us every Friday morning at 8:30 a.m. If you would like to ask better questions, you can join the Relevate community down below. Alternatively, you can put it in the comments section, but in the community, we've got a whole bunch of other amazing humans that can help answer questions and solve problems for you. Otherwise, we really do appreciate you watching. Take care, and you stay classy.
Catch you next time.